All right, this is my HackerRank extra credit. Starting off in week 2, I did one of them for loops. I just created a loop and ran it while the output was below the input of n. So it prints the square of I until I is greater than n. The next one is tuples. So I created T to be a tuple from the list, the integer list, which was the input. For week 3, the first one I did was swap cases, which just was to use the swap cases function. Pretty straightforward, but I'd never used that function before, so that was something that I learned. The next one was finding the percentage. In this one, they gave me lines 1 through 8 already, so I completed the code with lines 11 through 15. I first created the list from the input to be L, and then I took the length of L, and then the sum of L, and then I found the average by sum divided by length, and then printed that. So it was pretty straightforward logically and with the functions, but I had to kind of put together a few simple functions to create the output and the goal. So the next one is list comprehension. I was given the code of the inputs for X, Y, Z, and N. I created an array to print A, Z, and Y for the range, and then it printed the arrays with all possible combinations of whatever those 3 inputs were. So it started with zeros, and then it went up to whatever the input was. And then the other condition was if it is equal to 2, then it is not included. So if it's, my if statement was that it had to be not equaled to n. And then I printed the array. So for the next one, it's to write a function for the leap year. This one ended up kind of being one I struggled with a bit. It was simple concept, but the logic of the code took me a minute to kind of grasp. What I fixed from what I originally had was I reversed my if statement. So originally I had divisible by 4, 100, and then 400. So to make the code run correctly, I reversed those, and then it kind of kicked it back correctly. And then moving on to week 4, I did integers come in all sizes. So this I learned how to do the exponents. So I took a to the b power and c to the d power, and then I added those 2 variables. The next one is power to the mod power. This one kind of took the last problem to the next level by making me figure out a to the b power, that to the m power. So I had to use a different function, POW ABM. So it was a different way of doing a power, but it was needed because I had the 3 variables, which makes sense to me, but I obviously hadn't used that before. So that's something that I had to learn. For this next one, the code ended up being pretty simple, but it took a bit for me to figure out the logic of it. I was printing a triangle of the number, and that number was repeated the number of times of that number. So it was an interesting concept, and it ended up being print I to the 10, I times 10 to the I power divided by 9 in integer form. So it printed, and then that 9 was because that the constraint was it could only be up to 9. So it went down from 9 to make the code run correctly. Overall, I really enjoyed HackerRank, and I thought it was very, I guess, it was a good way for me to practice. Being kind of a new user or new coder in Python, it was a way for me to look at a problem and then try to figure out logically how to run that in the language of Python. So that was very helpful to me, and I felt like I got a lot out of it overall. And yeah, I think too, writing it out in a Word document and kind of going through it back again right after I had done it, it kind of solidified it a bit further for me, and I feel like I understood the problem, and understood my code, and made sure that I was kind of checked off on those boxes. So yeah, all right, thank you.